Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Salute, Knick family. Queen is not available today. She's on the road, and so I'm going to do my best to try and fill in. Not if I didn't know better, I'd say she knew that game was coming and that effort was coming, because the Detroit game, not my favorite to talk about, not a lot to talk about in terms of in terms of great basketball on the part of the Knicks. A super disappointing effort from the team from top to bottom. I know that we had some injuries. OG didn't play, and Cat didn't play, and so those things are circumstances for sure, but they're excuses too, because they were without Jalen Duren for the second consecutive time that we played them, and we lost the first game by 30, and we lost this one by 38, and so it was very disappointing effort. From the Knicks. It felt like from the beginning of the first quarter, for about the 6-minute mark of the first quarter on, the Knicks just kind of walked through this game, and this was a case of Detroit. One of the teams that was involved wanted to win this game and was highly motivated and really locked in, and the other one wasn't, and it's obvious who that team was, and you knew that after they played a terrible game against Washington, that they were going to come back and with a vengeance, and that they had this game marked on their schedule. We knew they were going to come out with intensity, and we failed to match that intensity. And to me, that is the disappointing part. I think that there's not a whole lot to dissect from this one, and I don't think there's a whole lot to I don't think it's time to push the panic button. We didn't play well. There's certainly no arguing that, but I don't think Jalen Brunson is going to shoot 0 for 8 every time from 3-point range. The 3-point variance was definitely a thing. They were 9 for 33 against Washington, a game they didn't care about, and they shot, I think, 17 of 40 last night in a game. And that's I think 43% is well above their average, and it was bigger than that for most of the game. But it's weird, because in a game where Cade Cunningham didn't really kill us, everyone else literally did, and that was very strange, disappointing effort from the Knicks. I'm not sure I've seen Jalen Brunson shoot the ball worse than he did. Josh Hart came back from injury, but he didn't play particularly well. Mikal Bridges scored better last night, but he didn't really show a lot. And but the story of this game, at least from what I could tell, is their bench rose to the challenge and played really well, and we didn't get much production from Landry Shamet. We didn't get much production from Jordan Clarkson. We didn't get much production from insert Nick, whoever you want to hear. And so that's kind of my initial take on the situation. I'm going to bring Knick Nation onto the show right now so he can join me and commiserate in what was a miserable performance. Good morning, Knick Nation.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry about I'm late there. Sorry about that.
It's okay. No worries. No reason to get up early for that effort last night. There's no doubt about that. So what I want to ask you, Knick Nation, is this just a case of Knicks came out flat, not much to worry about, or are you highly concerned? what's your temperature on this morning? Obviously, the worst loss since 2019 for this team, a 38-point shellacking.
Yeah. That was pure belt to ass last night. As a fan, it's extremely frustrating to see it. And it's really not, the players, we have quite a few players out, hurt. That breaks a lot of continuity in the point of the system. We need every piece that we have. And when you start missing, that many pieces for our team, it really hurts because of this, the way that it's still a new install, the system itself. But with that being said, analyzing the actual game or the system, that part was more frustrating than actually seeing, how bad the players played last night. So that part to me, that part is the part where I have questions. I definitely have questions for that part. So that's where I'm a little frustrated at. I'm a little frustrated at Brown's system, not as much as I am with the players when I overall looked at the game last night. That
So
part,
let's explore that a little bit more. Let's explore that a
Mhm.
little bit more. I like that I like the direction this is going, because this is something that you're going to be able to answer a lot better than I am. So what was it? So was it a case of the Knicks scheme being poor, or the Knicks not executing the scheme that they were supposed to? Or so what are the things that you saw schematically that were markedly different from the 8-game win streak? Because literally we were a house of fire. We were doing everything right for what, almost 2 weeks, and then we came we came into this one, and it was really you know uh, uh, failure on every level. Like I think that's true. But what I'm interested in, Nick, is what are the things that you saw that specifically from the schemes that you thought were a failure, and is that are problematic moving forward, and not just a one-off?
Well, like you say, it's definitely a combination of things. But if I'm saying his name right, do I say his name right? Is it Bickerstaff? Is
Yep.
that the coach, Detroit's name, Bickerstaff, right? Bickerstaff has seen enough of us and seen enough of that system where if you don't have nuances into it, he has a pattern for how he wants to defend us. And that team is built around in certain ways to beat us. Just the same similar as we tried to build a team to come around and beat the Celtics, in certain schemes like that. So number one is the difference is that when we play them specifically, he highlights areas where we have weaknesses at, and he deters us or slows us down tremendously. If we look at us bringing the ball down, there are nuances like that where you see how many times where you see where there's three, when we go to take the ball out and bringing the ball up from 90 feet, where you see three guys on the inbounds. You don't see that much. So what Bickerstaff does is he'll take that away from us, which slows us up in the clock, which doesn't give us that downhill movement and what's name. So he's putting staggering blocks in front of us before we even get up to the motion to even go. He uses that, what's named then secondly, once we even get points to that, he creates a point of making sure that the physicality that Brunson sees, one, on the ball, off the ball. So they're tagging him, bumping him, placing arms, not letting him freely move at all off the ball. Then thirdly, he defeats our point as well as making sure he kept us off as far as rebounding. In both games, he definitely, where you can see where Mitch, he keeps it he makes it a principle to make sure to keep a physical body on Mitchell Robinson, which then doesn't allow us second chance points, because rebounding, once again, we got murdered in that area not once again, but specifically in that area last night, the difference is points is if you go to the rebound disparity, I'm pretty sure there's a big difference in that, specifically on offensive rebounds, which doesn't then give us second chance points. But besides all of that, he really keeps one-on-one and isolates us where we don't have, where the main principal point of it is what frustrates us is we don't have particularly backside, weak side movement where we're not creating any real off-ball action. And once that point keeps happening to us, there's nobody open. They're jumping the passing lanes. They particularly are overly aggressive. We do not have a team that kind of has the IQ in order to maneuver around that. I don't want to go too far in it, but there is a frustrating point in that where that directly points back to Brown and so far the job that they've done. So it's I'm sorry to be so long-winded, but it is kind of it's a lot. There's a lot of points of where that particular team hits us really hard.
Wow, you said a lot right there. There's a lot to unpack with that. I thank you for diving deep into that. I appreciate that very much. And how much of it though is, and I know they did it. I guess it's hard for me because these two games were both bad, but the circumstances in both of them were quite different. And so context always matters, right? And clearly without Towns and Anunoby, it's a lot easier to guard the Knicks, right? And Asar Thompson, I think this is Asar, right? Because Amen's in Houston. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Asar Thompson is one of the most versatile defenders in the league, and he really allows you to play one-on-one a lot and really make other people beat you. And the Knicks didn't have anybody that stepped up into that role. Like you want to talk about next man up mentality. Well, Detroit certainly had that last night. Isaiah Stewart, I don't think he missed a shot from the field, and the Knicks had a no man up mentality. We literally nobody played well. And so I think that I think you don't need to get carried away with this because postseason is a different animal. I'm not sure that the Pistons are going to shoot lights out from three every game in a 7-game series if we end up playing them. At the same time, this was a bad night for the Knicks because the Celtics came back from 20 points down to beat Miami, and so now you're a game behind them in the standings and fall into the 3rd seed. And so I think that's crucial because that if you have to play Boston on the road, and win a game on the road, this isn't a team that's shown a lot of capability to win on the road right now. We've been a dominant home team, and just a lack of response and physicality was curious to me because it's not like they didn't expect it. Like, this is a team of veterans. That Detroit's going to come in there and try to bully you and out physical you. And we played for about 6 minutes and we're like, yeah, we've had enough of this. Let's just go to the locker room, that I don't know. That's certainly not the Tom Thibodeau mentality, and I'm not clamoring to go back to that by any stretch of the imagination. But, I think A-Train makes a good point. Underman teams have come in and won games all the time. The Spurs under Popovich were famous for that. I remember one time Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker, all three didn't play, and they went in and beat Miami, who had the big three at the time. You know what I mean? And so, it was a lackluster effort, and everybody gets the blame for that, and certainly, I think it headlines how how fragile things are in the NBA, right? You go from, and I'm not sure if the news of Towns playing just kind of let the air out of the balloon. It might have been like, oh, well, we really need this. And then everybody kind of flattened when it was, because I was kind of surprised that he made it onto the injured list. I didn't realize that eye injury was as severe as it was. So from that standpoint, I was shocked to see that he was out of the lineup, and then OG with a toe injury. Um, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. But the Knicks certainly punted this game, and that's got to fall on Jalen Brunson, right? He's the captain. You got to set the tone and set the example. And he wasn't very good last night. And I mean, nobody was,
Yeah.
but I mean, if you're the captain, I don't know that I've seen him play a worse game in all phases, really, than he played last night. Talk to me a little bit about what you saw from JB last night.
Well, as far as Brunson, let's not forget, we just played a double overtime game. He played what I believe 47, 48 minutes in that game. So, he's human. He gets the point to wear down too. We had a lot of people, well, a lot of bodies. He's got a lot of bodies being surrounded and run at him. But to me, at one stage of it, you could be, you could be frustrated at Brunson, but really, I was more frustrated, like I say, at the system, because at certain points where he's just dribbling and trying to find a spot that we're late in the shot clock, and then he's just throwing up shots that where his feet are not set, his shoulders are not set. You know what I mean? The timing, the rhythm. He's a very rhythmatic timing player. They took him out of that rhythm. They took him out of his timing. They put him in areas where some of his shot, where he's much better is. They pushed him or made or sped him up. And Brunson's truly typically not a player that gets sped up too well. And great pros, if you could hear this, it's the same verbiage repeated every time. When you get to certain stages where you're really that good, you don't allow people to speed you up. You don't allow defensive systems to speed you up. But last night he was so overwhelmed that where even when he would then get the ball out or move the ball, it still didn't work. So to me, it still points to a lot of the system. The system of it was more frustrating than anything. Watching that game last night, there were times where you would just sit there and say, this is not tenable. Why are we still trying to force and do the same things over and over? But then I'm trying to forget where the ball is. I'm looking at the off ball action. There is none. People are standing around and are stagnant. To me, does that come from, well, I know Brunson's got the ball, so I'm probably maybe not going to get it? Or is that a point of the system itself and allowing those kind of thoughts to creep into you? Because as you can see, anybody who got the ball, I very rarely saw any open shots last night. And when the ones that we did, we really couldn't knock them down on an efficient point. So that to me got a little bit frustrating. So I don't necessarily see that it was definitely Brunson or not, because the guy stands in there and takes tremendous points of shots. You know what I mean? As far as he's number one, as far as offensive fouls, receiving points, offensive fouls. So it's not a point of him, not being physical or Brunson not putting it to shoulder to him. Look at the rest of the team in which that we had out there. Anybody who had a physical presence, and to me, the best one at it was Shamet. So I don't want to go too far, but to me, Shamet was, even though he had 5 points, to me, his effectiveness to create fouls on the other teams, because he created a lot of fouls last night, even though he only had 5 points. You have to have, before I go too far on a tangent, you kind of have to have at least a game plan for a overly defensive, physical team. You have to make them pay for that. And what we did, we had no ability in our current athletes and players to make them pay for it. and that hurt us big last night.
I want to bring up a comment that Dwayne Dennis, salute to you this morning. But I thought that this was interesting. I wanted to get your commentary on it. He says, "I think that it's more than that, Geoff. This was a statement game, payback, retribution. Detroit has a chip on their shoulders, and the Pistons has a vendetta against the Knicks because of losing to us in the playoffs." And I think he's got a point in that. I do think that this was certainly the Super Bowl type of atmosphere for Detroit, and this was just another game in February for the Knicks, right? Like they didn't treat this game as special, or like it didn't seem to bother them that they got whipped the last time. They just like, it's another game. We're going to go in, we're going to play, we're going to see what happens, whatever. But I don't buy the 3 games in 4 nights excuse, or because Detroit played literally the night before. Like they had a game against Washington, obviously a game where they overlooked Washington. And sometimes when you play a really bad game, the next game, you're more focused, but it didn't matter how they played against Washington. They were going to be focused for this one. But, why you keep talking about the system. And so is the system flawed, or were the Knicks just not running the system? Because as you said, the system calls for a lot of backdoor cuts and movement. And what I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I heard you say is they weren't cutting, they weren't moving, they weren't screening to the same level that they had been over the previous 8 games. Was that just a failure of the Knicks to execute the system? Or is it that the system itself is a failure? Because I think if you talk to the guys in that locker room, they would say that it's a failure for them to execute the system, and the system itself is not flawed. And in your answer, if you could just kind of pinpoint a couple of flaws that you've been seeing, and things that we need to look at moving forward, I would appreciate that too.
Yeah, let me clean that just up a little bit. It's more so is that it's the system itself. There's movement, but as far as off-ball action, there's rotation, and then actually screens, pin downs. Those are different. We don't do that. A lot of that. We do motion. We do motion, but we don't do a lot of off-ball backside screens. We don't do we don't do a lot of pin downs. We don't do those things. We don't do a lot of other things to free up players while they're off the ball. That is definitely a problem. But we do have motion. But motion is different than actually running a system where you're saying, hey, I'm going to try to free up this guy, or I'm going to try to free up this guy, or this guy, or cross what's names, and play hot potato, with the ball. We don't do that. We do what we do is more of a motion. There are some screen points that pay totally more attention to what the ball handler's doing. So that's why you see a lot of the handoffs, because that's where they rely on it at. But as far as off the ball of it, what's names, I employ a lot of fans, stop looking at the basketball. Look at what they're doing besides the basketball. It takes a little bit of training to do that to your eye. But really, if you just start looking at what are the other guys doing while Brunson's dribbling or another guy's moving around, what are they doing? We don't have enough of action. We don't do enough of it. We don't do enough of it to get our players, going to areas where they get downhill. We had nobody getting downhill last night, which was extremely frustrating. That team should have had the minimal fouls that they did have. They should have had a lot more, because it's just the way that the NBA is built and the rules are built. We don't play in the guidelines of the rules at times. It's one of my, unfortunately, I don't want to go back and forth with it, but it is one of my pet peeves why I have a little, how would you call it, bias with Mikal. And I think it's my bias is that I know that that's not his game. And it's, to me, it gets a little frustrating because he doesn't present the physicality point of the game. Certain things are unavoidable. And when you do avoid them, it shows. And that mentality, I don't like it or don't agree with it because I grew up playing basketball. I grew up being a very physical person. I know what it presents to, you know what I mean, to the game. And when he avoids that, it doesn't set a good precedence for what you're to do, you know what I mean, a part of the game. I think he is neglecting part of the game in a sense, which it's the little nuances in the game. Because I think when you get to a particular level as pros, you are trying to peel out every little inch that you can. You know what I mean? Every little small statistic, every little other thing that you're trying to get to. And I think that when he fails to do certain things in those areas, but he's not alone, particularly last night, he was definitely not alone, where it's a bunch of guys. Hart probably should not have been out there. I don't want to go too far, say on the tangent. Hart probably shouldn't have been out there again as well last night because he just, you know, there was his physical limitations looked very bad last night. And these things get highlighted and shown more when you go against a physical team, in which they are. And like you said, we lost. This is back to back. The last time we lost, they had a back to back as well. And we lost once again. So yeah, I agree. There is no excuse for that. And what's the name? But injuries do play a part of it, but it's a part of the game. We just somehow have to be better. And the system, to me, has to get better. But to answer your question in somewhat terms too, it's another caveat, but do we have the IQ to increase what Brown and them may also have in that system? That's the answer. It's been frustrating from 20 games ago. I'm still frustrated about it, but I don't know the answer. I'm sure there is more to his system. What has been implemented right now, it's so vanilla that these guys, if you looked at Detroit, they took away those little small principal points of us. But after that, you know, we had zero answers to counter it. I thought we came back out in the second half and it just got worse. I thought we had an answer. It just got worse. So I apologize with these long, you know, verbiage answers, but it just gets a bit frustrating when we see it and we know that there's no help coming and this is all what we have and we have to somehow figure it out and get better.
Well, there is help coming, though. Jose Alvarado is coming. OG Anunoby is coming. Karl Anthony Towns is coming back. So there is help coming from that standpoint. But I do find it interesting that, and I don't want to go too much on this because we talked about it on Thursday's show, but I really actually feel like Mikal Bridges is, you know, the expectations of him are things that he's never been. Like, he's never been a physical player. It's not like he was this physical player in Phoenix and Detroit. I mean, Phoenix and Brooklyn, and then he came to the Knicks, and now he stopped being physical. I mean, he's first of all, he doesn't really have a frame to be the most physical. He's not going to overpower anybody with his strength. That's not who he is. And so I kind of, you know, the criticism to say that he's not what I want him to be, but that's not who he is, I'm not sure that's exactly fair. And so if you want to criticize the Knicks front office because he's not the archetype of player that you want in the system, I think that is fair. But to criticize Mikal Bridges because he's not this ultra physical player, like, it's not like he was averaging 4 free throw attempts per game every other stop he's been, and now he's down to 1. No, he doesn't get to the free throw line. He's never gotten to the free throw line. You know, and so, you know, and did we need more from him last night? Probably, but you know, there was one point where he had 15 points on decent field goal percentage, and the next closest person was 5. Like, is that Mikal's fault? Like, so, you know, I understand the frustration. But I think that you know, I think that what we should ask of Bridges is to be the best version of himself. And I don't think that entails, you know, him trying to be some physical, like, enforcer, on the defensive end, because I don't think that's who he is, and I don't think it's I don't think it's his it is for him on the offensive end either. So I do think with Bridges, Bridges wasn't great, hasn't been great, up and down, whatever you want to say. Okay, I think he led the team in negative plus minus last night. So obviously things weren't working when he was on the floor, but things weren't working when he was off the floor either. Like we were bad from pillar to post in this one, and everyone was bad. Particularly the bench, we got hardly anything from, and that's to be expected when you're down 2 starters. Your bench is already starting, and so you're gonna run into those things. And it's really funny because I sound like the Mikal Bridges fan club right now, and I was the one who said 5 picks is way too much to spend for a guy who's not an all-star, and I think that's the root of our frustration as Knicks fans is we did give up an all-star package for this guy, and he's not an all-star, but we're not the only ones who have done that. The Minnesota Timberwolves gave up at least as many picks for Rudy Gobert plus players. And the Knicks didn't really give up players in that deal. Then you look at what did Orlando do with it was Bane, right? Desmond Bane. They gave up a pick back. Desmond Bane has never been an all-star, probably never going to be an all-star. So is that just the price point changing and people not valuing picks like they used to? Or is it something else? Because then you see some things on the other side of the spectrum. You see Luka Doncic got traded for hardly any picks, and you saw these superstars that have been dealt lately. There haven't been a lot of first round picks in those packages. And so, I don't know if it's a revaluing of first round picks around the league, or it's a case of teams have already traded them away in a lot of cases. But, I think that all of those things kind of have come together, and when things go wrong, we all have the people that we want to focus our attention and blame on. But, you want to talk about, part of the reason we lost is Towns didn't play because of injury. OG didn't play because of injury. Josh Hart's missed time because of injury. Well, what's one thing Mikal Bridges doesn't do? Miss time because of injury, right? And so, I tend to think personally, I don't think this is a systemic failure. I think this was the Knicks came out with middle of February energy, and the Pistons came out with playoff energy, and they were determined to win this game, and we just weren't. Like it was just. Oh, and you can criticize everybody and anybody you want to. I think all of those are valid for that, but I think that's what it comes down to. So, and before I get to the chat, just and you can feel free to chime in, because I don't want to dominate the mic here too much, because I want your thoughts, and I want to get to some of the things that the chat are saying and hear your response to those. But Sunday is Boston. Boston is playing really well. It's crazy. The Knicks won 8 straight games and didn't really move much in the standings, right? And so Boston, it's crazy. But, I don't know if you remember, I don't like Bill Simmons very much as a commentator, but he had Ewing theory. I'm wondering if it's starting to be time where we have Tatum theory. Because it seems like Boston is playing better without their star than with him. So if Ewing theory was a thing, which it wasn't, it was totally bogus. The Knicks were obviously better with Patrick on the floor, and it's just lazy take on my point. I don't want to, I don't know Bill Simmons. I'm sure he's a great guy or whatever, but I don't want to disparage him. He's entitled to his opinion, but I'm curious to see if maybe if he would profess that Tatum theory is a thing, and I know he wouldn't, because those are his beloved Celtics. But but Boston is coming up, and they are clicking on all cylinders. They were down 20 last night as well and came back to win, and now they're ahead of us in the standings again. So this is a crucial game. We don't have time to sit and feel sorry for ourselves. We got to lick our wounds and get back to it and play sharper and and we can't go with any excuses. So what I, for one, expect a much better effort against Boston, because typically when teams get embarrassed, even, they come out the next game at least showing some pride. And so but a good effort may not be enough to win that game on the road, especially for a Knick team that hasn't been shown a propensity to win on the road. We seem to feed off the home crowd a lot more than other iterations of the Knicks for whatever reason.
Oh yeah, I don't like I don't blame Mikal for who he isn't. You know what I mean? And what point of it is in his game. But you grow up playing this game, knowing that that is a part of the game, and when you avoid that portion of it, which he does, but it's like you say, it's definitely not just Mikal, and it's a whole bunch of other things, and a perfect storms, whatever you want to call it, but if we really take a whole point of it and look at it, it's got to kind of separate ourselves as fans and just really give a hard truth to sometimes some of this stuff. We have weaknesses, we have flaws. The system that Brown is running, it's not like we then said, hey, I'm recruiting players to be effective in that system. We are taking players and then trying to make them players that are already here and established, and then trying to make them effective in that system. There is going to be there is going to be, hurdles that go along with that. And this is certain nuances. This is what we're running into. This is why a lot of us are clamoring and screaming about certain about the size of our team. We got one of the smallest teams that there is. Now, I don't personally know Jose Alvarado's game like that, but then to turn around for us, it's still going to look like that, because then you turned around and bought a 5'11" player in, where we're already the smallest team in what's name. And, can he have a physical presence like that? It's tough to put the onus on somebody 5'11", 175 pounds and say, hey, go in there and be our tough guy. It can be done. It's possible. Believe me, I would love to see it. But currently, right now, the way that we are built, yes, I do worry about in the playoffs where it becomes much more of a physical game, tougher opponents, each series, each night, you're getting people's best. We know that for us, we have to be perfectly healthy in order for us to make a run. That is a tough thing to do. We're all worried about that. We're all fans. I'm always going to be worried about that because, we all have PTSD because we haven't seen a championship, since 1972, 73 season. So that is.
I didn't see that one, boss. I was not born yet. I haven't seen one at all. But yeah, some folks got to enjoy 73. I was not one of them.
I was born, but and I was 5, but I didn't see it. I'm 5. Hey, you didn't remember nothing like that. You barely remember how to turn the channel. The UHF, VHF buttons were over there on the sides. Working antennas back then. That's where we had the rabbit ears.
And you had to put foil on the rabbit ears.
So exactly. Or I was the youngest, so let me tell you, there's times where they would tell you, hey, hold that rabbit ear and stand there. No, don't move. Don't move. Wait.
Like the Statue of Liberty up there. Yeah.
So, I can remember some of those crazy things. But in all fairness, with the, what this team is, do we, we have to sometimes sit back and relax, even as a fan or even as somebody's trying to analyze the game. We do have to sit back and say, yeah, there are going to be issues where we just can't make those certain adjustments that fast. Even though Brown, we've given him credit for trying to, maneuver and what's same things. Last night, we didn't have the personnel to even think about adapting to any kind of real change at all. It's frustrating, of course, but if anything else, like I said, we're still going to keep looking at our flaws when they appear. And for us to just gloss them over and think that, oh yeah, that's just going to go away, I think that's a little bit unrealistic. I pray that we just get better and that this, And to me, it's almost like when we watch Indiana, you know, we know that, hey, that these guys right now, they're missing a lot of, you know, their top, you know, tier athletes in a sense, but it's still the system in which they run that, to me, it's like, that's where the difference point comes in. It's how well your system is run, how well your system is implemented. And right now, there's quite a few flaws. And Bickerstaff, believe me, he's on it. He has our number. So, you know, that worries us, because we think that that's the team. You know, typically that's the team that you got to get by. And right now it looks ugly. Ugly. So,
Well,
if
the
you want to
good
get to
news
the
right now is that if we stay in the 3rd seed, we won't have to worry about the Pistons till the Eastern Conference Finals. So if things stay where they are, and I'm not sure they will, because we have some teams breathing down our neck for the 3rd spot also. But I want to get to some comments from the chat, unless you have something else that you wanted to bring up. You know, Queen has really been very you know, her concept of the collective is we want to give the chat an opportunity as much as possible to get their opinions voiced and heard, because you're as much a part of the show as we are. I mean, you know, that's how I started. I was I was watching panelists who know better than I do. So I want to certainly go through some things, and feel free to comment on. But I want to shout out my guy, David Smith, who says the Knicks lost without Cat. Cat's the Knicks' best player and MVP of the team. You know, and Brunson certainly didn't have a good game, but I will say this: the Knicks are winless in games their Jalen doesn't play this year too. So although they did play well without him last year, interestingly enough. But then we have, I think this is a Pistons fan. Shout out to you for joining us after, you know, take your victory lap. We welcome you here. I don't think I've seen you really here before, but that's okay. Admit the Pistons are a problem for y'all. Absolutely, I admit the Pistons are a problem. But the Pistons are a problem for everybody. Like, it's not just us. Like, they have the best record in the Eastern Conference for a reason. You know, they have a roster that fits really well together, and they guard you. Like, they defend really well, and so. The next step in the process for them, in my opinion, is to win a playoff series, right? And so they've shown they can be a regular season dominant team, and kudos to them. And I fully expect them to show that, by the way. I'm not trying to diss the Pistons at all. I have complete respect for Detroit and what they're doing. They're the best team in the East right now, and the Knicks are going to have to raise to that level. And they haven't shown the ability to do that yet. That doesn't mean that they won't, but they haven't shown the ability to do that yet. So shout out to Detroit. They were ready for that game. They wanted that game, and the Knicks didn't, and they punished us for it. You know, I also don't think that the 2 games that we played against Detroit are really indicative of who the Knicks have been all season long. I mean, we've seen that we can compete with San Antonio and Denver and all these other teams that are really good, and we've you know, we haven't stepped we haven't stepped up in the Pistons games, but we didn't last year either. I think we lost 3 times to Detroit in the regular season, and then come the postseason, I think we won 3 games in their building. And so, you know, and it's different teams. Absolutely, the Pistons are better, and I think that the debate is out if this Knicks team is better than last year's or not. I'm not. I don't want to weigh in on that right now. I think the only way, it's just, you know, time will tell. But you know, I think we're close to the way we were last year. And so we'll go from that. And I think Keith Turner, salute to you, my guy. Keith Turner echoes a similar sentiment. He says, Detroit got a good team, better start respecting them. Yes, absolutely.
100%.
But you know, I don't, I definitely think that we need to respect them and what they're doing. They really played well. And then Marco Polo, salute to you. We just got bullied out there. Yes, we certainly did. And I think that was one of the things, like, where was Mitchell Robinson last night? Like, you know, you can play amazing against the Joker, and then you let Paul Reed dominate you. Like, what is going on, right? And so, and again, it's everybody but he was, I think, an example of just what what ailed the Knicks last night. Like, he didn't come to the front, and he didn't give his best, in my opinion, last night. And then to follow up, Keith Turner says, I actually see Detroit making the Eastern Conference final run. You can disrespect them all you want, but they're for real.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree,
100%.
I agree.
At this point, they absolutely are the favorites to win the Eastern Conference. I mean, there's not that anybody who says otherwise is just, has their fan hat on. Like, they really, they really are the favorite, and they've played really well. Mike Brown needs to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it, and that's another thing, is it too late to implement some of these, off-ball actions to free these guys up? Do we have a team that has the IQ to absorb that, at this current stage of where we at, in the schedule? I don't know. And this is some of the things that, we have to be worried about. Because come playoff time, physicality just increases. It does not decrease. What they get allowed, what they're allowed to get away with, particularly off-ball physicality, it increases. It does not decrease.
There was a play last night where they literally grabbing Brunson's arm so he couldn't make his cut without a call. Oh, yeah. That's craziness. But to your point here, it says, ChemDoc, salute to you, always rocking with us. It says, Knicks have some flaws and injuries are stacking up everywhere. I don't like it. And I think that the injuries are a concern. One thing that we didn't really talk about yet is Josh Hart left this game in the third quarter and didn't come back. And so you wonder if that ankle injury, and it wasn't on contact this time, he kind of just tweaked it. I'm hoping that it's not more serious, because we already have news that Deuce is out probably the rest of the regular season. And that means he's, in my mind, out for the playoffs too, because it takes a while to when you don't get court time, like, he can't play, right? It's going to take him a while to round back into shape. And so you can't really expect him to just come back. Like, even if he is fully recovered from the surgery by April 12th, which is, I think, the last day of the regular season, is it reasonable to expect that he's just going to be able to come on the court and be the same impactful player, shooting 40+% point of attack defense that's through the roof and all of those other things? I'm not sure that that is a reasonable expectation. I hope I'm wrong. I hope his recovery goes faster than that, or he's able to bounce back quickly. And I'm sure he's going to work hard, because that's what he always does. But, losing Deuce for the season, even with Alvarado coming in, is certainly a blow to our championship hopes. But there is hope in the organization. I think that that he will be back. And so, I think he's a critical piece, but I also think that Alvarado can fill in a lot of those gaps he's not the same player as Deuce. Both are undersized. He's not the shooter that Deuce is, but what he doesn't provide in shooting and spacing, he definitely provides playmaking and running an offense more than Deuce does. So maybe that's value. And I think we need 3 point guards anyway. So I'm glad to have Alvarado, Kolek, and Brunson. And I think, at least a little bit, I kind of like to see all three of them get some time. I don't know.
From what I've heard from Deuce's injury is that it's an injury once the surgery is performed and it's healed. It's like it's a jump in increments. And from what I understand is that once it's healed, it's healed. It's not like a thing where you got to kind of baby it and understands. It's just once it's healed at that stage, it's healed. Once the surgery, and then, then the rehab point, the inflammation, whatever it may be, all of that. But once it actually is healed, it's not like something that has to be babied, from what I understand. It just becomes, it is what it is. 8 games and grinding those 8 games, out on some of those wins, it takes a toll. Believe me, this is a long. This happens every year. This is a long NBA seasons where injuries happen every year. We have to try, like you say, we have one of the best staffs. So hopefully they can minimize that. None of us like these injuries, but they're part of the game. Injuries are part of the game. So that's why you have to learn to deal with them. And, we're learning. These young guys are learning. And to me, my only real thing about last night, too, is about Brown. There is a time where you just say, hey, well, you're in a race where it is times to pull off that gas pedal. And I thought last night was one of those times where by mid third quarter, or even before that, all those cats on the bench, get in there. You're going to learn. We're going to figure this out. Because sometimes
the cats on the bench were really bad in the fourth quarter too, though. The Knicks were awful in garbage time. So I don't know that if you played Brunson 10 minutes less, is that really gonna? I probably wouldn't have lost by any more points. So I guess you're right about that. But
I'm a beat up team already. So why would I grind out? You know what I mean? My other guys here. I'm not going to do it. To me, this is going to be an education and a learning moment. Hey, young guys, get your butt in there. And when you go in there, I just want to see how physical you can be, because I want to know, who I'm in the foxhole with. And I'm trying not to, to minimize the suffering and injuries of some of my players. So to me, there is times where you got to take your staff and say, we don't got it today. You got to be able to recognize that. You know what I mean? There is a point of where grinding out and trying to what's names. But when you're limited in soldiers and you know that there's more battles to come forward, you have to take some time that approach. And I think that you have to protect sometimes these players against themselves. Like even in what's name here, we talk about Josh Hart's ankle, but I saw Josh Hart, favoring that thing from the beginning point of the game. You could see, if you go back and watch a little point again, it wasn't right. And as a coaching staff, sometimes you got to recognize that, and you got to protect the player from himself. And I think that that's one of the points where last night, hey, that's my approach to it. But everybody's approach is different, and that you have to respect from what their mentality is as to what they think is best for the team. And we as fans, we have our thought pattern on it. So that's just what you did get a super chat. I do see right there as well too.
Oh, did we get a super chat in?
Mm-hmm. Jam Rock always.
Oh, I didn't get to that. I don't see it. Oh, here it is. Okay. I'm way, but it's a lot harder to follow shout out to Queen. A lot harder to follow the comments and do this than it looks like. I mean, she makes it look flawless, but I'm just a rookie, so I'm gonna do my best here. Shout out to Parrish Duggar. He's a longtime supporter of the show. We appreciate you. He says we aren't going to show Detroit what we do yet. Well, we haven't shown Detroit anything yet. I'll agree with you there. I don't whether we have something for them or not remains to be seen. But no, playoffs are a different animal. So in that aspect, I think he's right. I think that if you see them in a 7-game series, it will look a little bit different. I think that this Knicks team will up their physicality. In a series with Detroit, they didn't play physical at all last night. But, a lot of Pistons fans said, and I heard it last year, they said, well, Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart didn't play last year, or we would have beat you last year. And there's no proving that, right? I mean, that's all conjecture. I mean, and maybe a little bit of sour grapes, but Stewart's been dominant against them. I mean, maybe, I don't think he missed a field goal last night. He had 8 or 10 points. I mean, he really, but he neutralized Mitchell Robinson, I thought. And so, you didn't miss Jalen Duren if you were the Pistons last night. Their bigs provided everything that they needed without him. And with the guys that we were missing, we weren't able to provide anything. I mean, we couldn't hit water if we fell out of a boat. And so, shout out to you, Parrish Duggar. Thank you for rocking with us. Thank you for the super chat and supporting the show. And thank you, Knick Nation, for show. I'm still so far behind on the chat. It's kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
But
When you
I
get
want
down
see if I
to
can
it's
get
one
to,
it's one more too. Yeah, Jamrock always.
okay, let me get to that then, because I want to make sure that we golly, this,
If you want me to read it off, I can do that, but I
oh,
can't.
hang on, I want to get it posted on the show. If you want to
Okay.
just kind of fill time so I can get it up there,
Yeah.
maybe
Let's
read a
just
couple other comments while I'm
yeah. And hey, and let me say, hey, I didn't realize that what was it, Darlene Bryant? She said she saw the game in 1973. That she saw the championships. So big shout out to her, because I don't know too many people in the chat that actually have, actually saw it. I know, like I just say, I was 5. I wasn't really, an NBA basketball fan then, at that stage. So, hey, I'm going to have a talk with her and say, hey, what do we look like? What did it feel like? Because I don't know the feeling. So I'd like to be able to run out in the street,
yeah.
and say, hey, we're champions, and actually wear a champion hat, one of those pieces on the side, I need
Yeah.
one of those. I need one of those patches, so that would be what's names.
All right.
If anything, it happens. If you can go down to 10 minutes and 52, maybe that helps. That's where it would have. That's where the timestamp is on it, at 10 minutes
Here it
and
is.
10:52
I'm
a.m.
having problems with my computer right now, guys.
Oh, okay.
That's all, where it disappeared again. Go ahead and read it. I can't
Okay.
get it to pull up with my computer. I'm sorry, Jamrock. I want to make sure
Hey,
that we're respectful of this.
Jamrock, always thank you for the contribution. We definitely appreciate you. It reads, as Pistons are just tougher physically and emotionally. Right now, he get no argument from me. There it goes. Yes. Yeah.
There it is. So absolutely, the Pistons are tougher, and look, they're playing, like, outside of OKC, they're probably playing the best basketball of anybody. And so I mean they didn't play well against Washington the other night, but I think you can definitely chalk that up to they were looking past them to this game, and they but so they were ready for us, and they were impressive. There is no doubt about it. Trying to get to.
I just think it's an indictment of who their coach is, and a lot of these coaches, you know what I mean, where you begin to understand and look at the way that they do things, run things, and their personality is. You get to see it, and I believe Bickerstaff that's what he's about. So come in from day one. He's, if you're not a dog and you're not grinding like he believes those things, I don't think you make his team. So that's just my take on it is, and I think they are just implementing exactly who I believe Bickerstaff is as a coach, and I think he exudes that as far as in his personality and his coaching style.
Shout out to the Queen, who's representing even while she's driving. I hope you're not texting and driving there, Queen. Be safe. But she said that to add this about Detroit, not to take anything away from their regular season run, but their best player is not a good shooter, I believe is what she said. Period. He's not surrounded by good shooters. Thought though they've improved with her, and they don't have a secondary scorer. It's going to be interesting how all of that shakes out in the playoffs. Yeah, I agree. And that's the difference between regular season and playoffs as well, as you can kind of focus and limit. But I kind of thought that the Knicks were back to being lost on their rotations again last night. And that's a lack of communication and effort that we haven't seen recently in the winning streak, but it seemed like that we weren't communicating. We were leaving shooters wide open. And when you leave guys wide open, they're going to shoot 43%, when you contest at a high level. I don't think they necessarily do that as much, but yeah, but I think that Queen makes an excellent point in that, this is not a juggernaut dynasty, and there's no automatics. And just because we saw Cleveland have 60 plus wins last year and lose in the second round of the playoffs. So, you can't always just say, the best team now isn't necessarily the best team, come June. I mean, I don't think anybody expected the Pacers to go on the run that they did last year, and theirs really started in late January. There was a below 500 team that really got it together and started clicking, and then the defense was there, and everything hit right, and they had a little bit of shot luck, and they played great defense, and they advanced to the finals, over us and Cleveland. And so, the playoffs are certainly a different animal, but we just want to be the best version of ourselves when we get there. And we certainly didn't look like that last night. But again, I think Queen's right. That's not indicative of who we are and how we're going to play as a ball club. Shout out to A-Train, who says that the Pistons play with a chip on their shoulder and a chip in their future. I like that, man.
I like the saying.
A-Train, that may be the comment of the day.
I like the saying. But just swing that over to us. But swing that over to us, though. I like the saying, but swing it to us. Certain things are disturbing. You know what I mean? Like last night, we got beat. We got beat mostly, and I'm not sure was he the high scorer of the game, but a G leaguer. That kid lit us up. I can't remember his name, but that kid lit us up.
I don't know. Yeah, he was killing us all night long.
He lit us up. He looked like a world beater last night. As and that's where as fans we get frustrated because we're like, what are we doing? Like, where did that kid come from? Could we have given somebody up for him? It's things like that we get a little crazy at because he, like I say, he gave us the business last night. It was definitely frustrating.
So Sherwin, shout out to you, Sherwin. And I'm just going to take a couple more comments. I think we're going to wrap this up, but I do want to try and get to as many of what you guys are saying as possible. Detroit beat us because of the 1, 2, and 3. They are long. They are too long for us at the guards and the wing. Maybe. But we beat them last year when we had pretty much the same backcourt. So I think it's easy to sweep in with that kind of a generalization. That may prove true. It maybe their size does get us this year, but and maturity and those sorts of things. They certainly have length, but again we needed better effort from our backcourt, but we also didn't get much from our front court last night either. So,
they understand that we don't have. They understand we don't have great ball handlers, and they take advantage of it fully. That's a big point of where a lot of this goes. They take advantage of it fully.
Who were the great ball handlers last year when we made the Eastern Conference Finals?
Well, the difference in there is their approach. He changed his approach, so that you know what I mean. That hurt us. You can't expect, the guys that we do have to all of a sudden become great ball handlers. So that means that you got to come up with a system or a scheme to counter that. And right now we haven't. And we
did add a ball handler too, though. I expect Alvarado to be part of the rotation, and he should help in that regard some as well. So, hopefully that will.
But I get where everybody's coming from. But what it is it's the how many you have on the court at the same time. And currently, the way that our team is set up, we don't have. A lot of times to have even 2, but you know what I mean? They've learned to stagnate us even with that because they know we don't have 3 or 4 or 5 ball handlers that we can trust to get the ball up the court, to move past people. We don't have that. They know it, and they're coming at us for it. If I was a coach, I would do the same thing.
Absolutely. Said Rebuild NYK says, yeah, Knicks won't get blown out, but definitely get worn down in the playoffs. Okay, I could see that happening. Anna Girl One, shout out to you. So Brunson has no space and passing lanes with guys standing around and hoisting contested threes. Yeah, I would agree with that. And not all 3-point shots are the same. You know that we like to take a lot of threes, but I'm not sure that the threes we took last night were the same threes that we've been taking for most of our winning streak. There's a difference between shooting contested threes and shooting uncontested threes. Shout out to Leon Mitchell, by the way, too. He says, he says, I'm 70 and I was there in 73 with my brother with tears in my eyes. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Can I get some of those tears? Can I get some of that salty tears? I need it too, because we had another super chat as well.
Okay, let me get to that. Here we go. All right, let's see. Jamrock, always thank you again for another generous super chat and always rocking with us. Jamrock, always a big contributor to the show. Denise Jenkins was talking about his motivation, about players drafted in front of him, and they showed Kolek and McCullough. Love that attitude. Absolutely. Yeah. But, you know, role players tend to play best at home also. I'm curious if he goes on the road, you know, and you know, we haven't really seen that this year, but, you know, if he comes out with that same kind of energy and, you know, he played well, he's been playing well. And I guess they have to convert him to a two-way contract now, because I think last night was the last day of his, you know, two-way players only get, what, 50 or 45 games, something like that. With the big club, and he's expended all that, so he's definitely been a big surprise for them. And
yeah, he has to get extended a contract, because that was last night was his last limited point of his game.
And so if I missed your comment, I'm sorry. I think that I want to just shout out Knicks Nation, Nick Nation, and all the other variation of that you can have. But both of you guys in the chat and on the panel, I appreciate you joining me this morning and being with me. We've got a matinee on Sunday. Sunday matinee games always. I always hate Sunday matinee games, especially with the Super Bowl, but and on the road. So I'm real skeptical that the Knicks are going to bounce back and win this game. I have a feeling that they're going to win, and that's going to be huge because it's going to put us in a 2-game hole. You know, in terms of from the second to the third seed, with, you know, and time is dwindling. So Knicks have to step up, and injuries are there, but we can't use them as an excuse. Hopefully Alvarado passes his physical and is there to kind of reinforce the troops. And I would expect that with Towns that just being the laceration over the eye, I would guess that it maybe the swelling made it shut or something like that, where he couldn't see. So I'm hoping that a couple days off will get that back to good. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know about OG's toe. Like I don't know how. I don't know what and the Knicks aren't really going to be forthcoming with that. But, you know, if Boston is going to be popping threes against you, you know, I mean, if Detroit was popping threes against you, you know, Boston's going to do it even more, because that's what they like to do. So it'll be interesting. You know, we talked about different styles from Denver to Boston to Detroit. Denver, we were able to hold up to their version of physicality. Detroit, we didn't even match their physicality. So now Boston is much more of a finesse team. How do we handle the finesse? Do we have answers for Brown and those sorts of things? Are all things that we're going to have to look at. Do you have any final words that you want to say to close out the show? Anything you want to plug or shout outs or anything?
Well, definitely, I want to shout out to everybody in the chat for joining us. Definitely so early in the morning. It's well appreciated. I loved, like I say, I love the way that these guys actually, they make comments, but actually a lot of them are making comments to each other, you know, big shout outs, because they're, you know, these chats become like a family. And I love seeing that and watching, you know, certain things I don't comment on, but, you know, the enthusiasm I love, you know what I mean, is as far as, you know, I'm a big energy guy. That's why, hey, others may clown on my friend over here, David Smith, but hey, he's here. He's giving energy. Gotta love it. You know, big shout outs to Paris Douglas, Darlene Bryant, and Grill. You know, there's countless others. You know, we definitely appreciate you guys getting up here this early. You know, it's 10 in the morning on a Saturday. I'm sure people could be doing other things, but they're here with us rocking. The super chats are definitely appreciated. You know, please hit that like and subscribe button. You know, it means a lot. It helps the algorithm, helps us get out there, helps us build great shows and great content. So please, you know, it's a small and it's free. Click, just hit that thumb, boom, boop, you know. And as far as the, what's the name? Hey, I think if we got the, you know, we get some of our personnel back, there's nothing, you know, more than I'm trying to, you know, engage my despiseness. LeBron James is right here. Anything Boston, from their hockey team to anything is up here. I just anything going that way. You know what I mean? I'd like to saw them off and push them out into the ocean. I'm sorry. You know what I mean?
You don't have to apologize to me. The name of my blog is I Hate the Boston Celtics, literally.
Exactly. So I love that. I love that. You know what I mean?
You don't have to tell me. So
besides the Boston Tea Party, they've done nothing for me. Only the Boston Tea Party. That's it. That's the only thing they've ever done for me. Anything else, I despise them. I won't eat Boston baked beans. I won't eat, you know what I mean, any of their kind of chowder. Nothing. Forget it. I don't want it.
He's not even Boston clam chowder. He said I don't know about that. I like some Boston clam chowder. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't care if you put lobster, shrimp, all that. I'll be looking at it. I look good. It's evil. It's evil. I won't do it.
Okay. Well, and you know, shout out to everyone one last time, and I will say this. You know, normally after a game like this, I said to Queen last night on the group chat, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say about this game. I was like, I don't. And she said, I said, what is there even to say? She said, it's therapy session. You know, but you're the therapist, Queen. Like, I don't know what kind of a therapy session it is. She usually provides the therapy, and she's not here this morning. So hopefully that we were able to provide some therapy this morning, and even if things don't go our way on Sunday, we're still in a good spot. We're still in good position, and this is a very good team. So let's enjoy the ride. And once again, everyone who's super chatted, everyone who's chatted, everyone in the replay gang, the entire Knicks collective, those who leave comments, those who don't, we appreciate you. There's no show without you. Knick Nation, thanks for coming up here and not making me go solo. I think it would have been a 20-minute show if you hadn't been here. But you cooking and you really made it possible and made it a lot easier. People don't realize I don't think how, you know, especially difficult it could be sometimes when you don't have the other comments and the other, you know, people on the panel and so forth. And Queen is able to do it brilliantly, and so you know, shout out to her for that, and would just, you know, throw this one in the trash, move on to the next, and have a great weekend.
Yes,
peace out, everyone. We really appreciate y'all.
Thanks. Thank you, Geoff. Great show.
Sister, you're one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Dope Soul.
Where you at?